What up, everybody, and welcome to the new episode of the SVR Podcast. How's everybody doing, man? I hope y'all doing great. Anywho, we have someone who does pretty much raw wrestling related, such as theme songs, their own podcast. They also released their own movie, which was released a few days ago. And the channel was created back in 30 October 2017. So, ladies and gentlemen, from Roblania Network, his name is Ace.
Hello, I'm Ace. Nice change of pace to be an interviewer and then get interviewed. But yeah, I did own RWI, Resurrection, and UWI, so it's great to be on here.
Alright, so Ace, basically all I have to do with you is asking you 10 questions, raw wrestling related, about your background, your experience, your content, and much, much more. So without any of ado, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
First question of the day. So this is basically about your introduction to raw wrestling. You used to make tutorial videos on how to make arenas, and at that time you had your federation going on in the works. So tell me, what were your first impressions being a part of raw wrestling? Like, what were your flaws?
Well, definitely when I started, it was a lot harder than because we didn't really have the nowadays. You have all the utilities like controls and pyrotechnics and everything. Those are just given to you nowadays. But when I first started, finding controls just to make like cutscenes, that was like a huge deal. Like I used to work with CJ Clutch. He helped me start my group, and I remember the first time we ever got cutscenes back in like 2018. We were like ecstatic. We were so excited to finally get one of the some utilities to actually make the group. So it's really just a testament on how much the community has changed. But I say definitely a lot of my flaws back then were really, I wouldn't say flaws. It was just I definitely just had less experience. That really goes for anyone in the community. Over time, uh, you'll just naturally improve. And that's what I did.
Second question. So you had your federation going to name by RWI, which stands for Roblox Wrestling International. You had booking ideas, storyline ideas, you had some action. You basically had everything on your hands, is what I'm saying. Now, in terms of the product as a whole, did RWI execute it well?
I would say in hindsight there were definitely a lot of things that I could have done better to last the longevity of it. But in terms of was it executed well, it served its purpose for what it needed to do in the time of the community. And with that being, people needed new stars. They needed new people being built, and the best way to do that, I firmly believe, is through the independent scene. So that's what I ended up really specializing in RWI. I built stars that would be they started showing up on the RWA circuit once they were in RWI, and I would build and push them, put them on the posters. Like one of them being like the Chris Rage and like Brian Apak. Those two guys really flourished, got their roots in RWI, and then that same success translated into other fields. And I feel like that's another thing that a lot of people aren't really content with nowadays, which is from a Fed owner POV, building stars, because it's not, I never viewed my job as a Fed owner to, I mean, like, obviously, the number one thing is just to have fun with what you're doing. Um, but, I was a kid back then, so, like, I was always trying to, be number one. I was trying to get all this stuff, and I think in hindsight, had I known the intricacies of just maybe learning, I think I could have focused more on promotion and stuff because I didn't really learn like the advertising stuff. The advertising game is easy, just takes time to put your stuff out there, and you got to really like actually be dedicated into putting that time in. And I don't think I really had that much because, as I mentioned before, CJ, who was instrumental in my beginning, he was mainly the main motivating factor behind those things. So would I say it was executed well? Yes, in the purpose that it served what it needed to. But not necessarily in the fact that I got to achieve everything I wanted to do. But of course, with UWI and Resurrection, I feel like I've accomplished a great deal, and without RWI, I would have definitely never been able to execute my other projects as well as they have. So it was really just a stepping stone into the future.
Moving on to the third question. It's based on your content and what you actually represent. What was the origins of Roblania Network?
It started off as the RWI network. It was as you mentioned, RWI was my first Fed, and I started off just only posting things about RWI, and the content would mainly just be matches or promos for the next pay-per-view. Really, just simple stuff when I was a kid, and I would just upload whatever I felt like to the Fed, which actually ended up getting people to come to the Fed, which I thought was great. One of the biggest stars that I got from there was, as controversial as he is, Omni Orton. He before the whole before he became kind of associated with all that notoriety, he was actually a pretty big star. And the fact that he saw a YouTube video for the channel, the RWI Network, which is what Roblania used to be called, the fact that he saw that, I remember he told me I actually came from the YouTube channel, and that's really what ended up motivating me to kind of rebrand it into the Roblania Network. And from there, I just started uploading different stuff. Eventually, as you can see now, it's home to a lot of World Wrestling content, weekly uploads, and just great content. And I just actually got done wrapping up Roblania Spider-Man, which took over a year in the making, and we had it's crazy how we went from having 20-30 views per video to having 115 people on the live stream yesterday. It's just been tremendous, the growth, and being able to see how the group has grown.
Next question. It's the positive of pro wrestling in general that doesn't take away. You know what I mean? What is the strong suit factor of pro wrestling?
Well, I would say definitely when it comes to the community, there's no other community. There's not a single community that's able to replicate what we do. A lot of communities, they and people shit on the pro wrestling community for being toxic or whatever. I'd say if you step out of this community and you go to other ones, they are 10 times worse than us. There are role play communities, and you would think role play communities just are, they seem like, I mean, like, no offense, but you're role players, so obviously there's a lot of there's a lot of creativity and creative thinking that goes into that. You'd think that those people would generally be associated with being nice individuals. I've met some of the worst human beings in those communities. Another thing I'll say, I don't want to trash on all of them. I can't speak for all of them. I really only like 2 or 3 groups. I'm just saying. When it comes to other things like boxing and pro boxing and pro MMA, again, these other communities are not as welcoming. So I don't say that our community is if perfect. It's not. There's still a lot of bad things. But when you focus on the positives, there's no other community in like the combat or in this kind of field that is able to do what we do, which in terms of production, because when you look at the growth, and I'm talking purely of the growth has never ever declined. We went from every year there's always something new, there's new tech, the standard gets higher every single year. This is the strong suit of the community, and people don't realize, people take for granted the fact that we went from base plate free model rings with shitty clean tools and no scripts to 100-player arenas with fully working tech, and this is something, it's just been unprecedented, because I've been able to see people come from I've been able to see personally the community at not necessarily its lowest, but definitely its lowest in terms of production. I mean, you look on the other side of the strong suit, that we're incredibly creative, because blending in the intricacies of storytelling that comes from pro wrestling, and then having real fights on top of that, you have to. Then the Fed owners here do an incredible job of balancing those. Because unlike other communities where you can just say this guy's fighting this guy for the championship, and just say that's it. There's no character, there's no story, there's nothing. And I'm sure this is why I love pro wrestling, because we actually have stories, we have storytelling. And the fact that Fed owners are able to replicate that and actually have intricate stories and have detailed, and of course, so a lot of Feds don't have them because they're just not as adept in being able to create them. But when you look at Feds, I look back at Feds like SCW, who did a NAXW. They do an amazing job in combining both the combat part and the real combat, because we don't script these fights in the community. So how they are able to combine both storytelling and fighting is just, it's again, as I said before, it's just unprecedented, and it only gets better and better as time goes on. I think people are always improving, and that's the strong suit of pro wrestling.
Straightforward to the fifth question. This comes off about independent scene in pro wrestling, who, yes, they are small and they are not that known. They are trying best they can to, in next few years, spark the spotlight. So, give me your thoughts on indie Feds. Do you think they got whatever it takes to make a name for themselves? And do you think they got the potential for it?
I think any Fed has the potential to be an IWA, or what's the other one called? I think like UWA or something. Anyone can do anything if you really just put your mind to it. It's not that hard, and the community may seem tricky at first, but my advice for independent owners is don't be too fixated on becoming the best, because I know there's a lot of talk about I want to become number one. When I was in the community, everyone was really competitive. I found that the people that always make it to be number one, speaking in experience because I've been in that position, is that it's when you're having the people that are on top of the community are usually the people having the most fun and not really thinking about it that deep. It's the people who think about it like super deep and like are super competitive and doing like X, Y, and Z to get their name known, and like they're either a scummy person or they're just not having fun doing it, and they're always having the pressure of this. Your goal should just be to have fun, and I feel like that's as I feel like that can get lost sometimes. And I definitely see that now with some, I would say, independent Feds in the past, like I would say like the 2019 2020 era versus now are very different, because I go to indie Feds now, and Like I'm not calling them like bad or anything because I was in that position before, but I feel like there is a bit of a lack of organization. Um, they don't handle themselves as like I'll go there and then people will just be like fucking flying around and it'll just be like okay, but it doesn't matter because indie feds are just there for just there to have fun. If you want to be, but my advice for people who would want to be in one is have that fun, be a little bit more organized. But if you're just a regular Fed owner, then just fucking do you, man. You just gotta do you. Don't get caught up in too much stuff, and that's the key to success.
Next question. So, the old generation, the OGs that were created this whole raw wrestling genre back in the day, right? Specific era of that time period when cleans, takedowns, and even animations were first created. Now be honest, did old gen necessary carried?
I would say the great feds like RCW, RWU, and really you can just put any name out there. They probably helped build the groundwork for and without them we wouldn't be able to be here where we are at this point, and we wouldn't be able to have all these great things that we do have. Um, I don't think that they necessarily carried anything because Raw Wrestling's more of a cycle than it is. It's a cycle of new feds and old feds, and people like to do the comparison of old versus new. In reality, it's pretty much the same thing. I would personally say that I think there was a certain peak in like RCW. I'd say after that there was a because like I don't know, people like to say like number one or whatever. I would say the quality of stuff was definitely better back then. The quality of the feds and how organized and put together they were, and the excitement of people, literally how people would get excited just being fucking accepted into a group, accepted into like if you were accepted into RCW, it was like a huge deal. If you were accepted into like the ECW fed, there were genuinely people who go on Twitter and be like, I just got accepted. We don't really have that no more. So I think that they didn't necessarily carry, but they're definitely an amazing groundwork that I think people should strive to recreate. Not the Fed, the feelings and emotions that they were able to invoke in the community, and I think that would make things a lot more fun, and it would make the community. Me personally, that's what I get fun out of. But there are people who just go to an arena and then swing their clean, which that's cool. I personally just feel like I get more enjoyment out of seeing something get built and rewarded. That's where. But again, I'm different from other people. I'm more of a creator than I am a. I kind of strayed away from the topic, but I'm more of a. I don't know how to word this, but like my idea of like I don't play video games, right? I just create stuff because like my video games is just like things I do on my leisure is like let's say like Resurrection, but in Resurrection I'm not even, and I'm not calling playing video games mindless, but like I'm not like playing anything. I'm like creating graphics and logos and planning an event, which it seems lame to some people, but I just have fun doing that. So that's what I think about if you want to make that comparison between old gen and new gen. I guess it really just depends on the priorities, and they change, and I think we're still in a good place now.
Seventh question. Now we got the negative of raw wrestling, which is full of mistakes, messed, and dry. Is there any issues in regard of raw wrestling? What could have done better?
Well, I would say the Fed owners are doing a great job. I don't think I think I'm gonna sound like a pretentious old gentleman when I say this, and I guess I am an old gentleman because I don't really like do a lot of wrestling anymore. But I mean, me personally, I just think that there's no creativity. Like if you look at like 5 random wrestlers, like some random mid card, they'll all have the same hair, same face, same attire, and and I realized this. I realized this. I think Caden Jersey worded it better, so I'm gonna try to do him justice. And he explained to me some people just do not care about. They just genuinely enjoy, and I'm really like I don't mean this in a like I'm not trying to be mean to people who. I'm not like putting anyone down when I say this, but some people find genuine excitement out of swinging their clean. Like just only doing that. No gimmick, no thought, just going there and doing it. And that's fine. I get it. That's what people do. For me personally, I just can't really wrap my head around it because for me what makes pro wrestling so great is the storytelling, is the theatrics of it. And I'm not saying that the actual competition is like a bad like a bad thing. It's not. It's a great thing. I think it's an addition on top of all these things that make things fun. I mean, I could never just go to the ring and or go to this. Like I would just not play Roblox. I would just not play because the reason that I find this so interesting is that we have all these things, not that we just move our mouse and then that's it. And then you win like a virtual title. That's not like that's just not interesting to me. I would just play. I don't know. I have like what on my PC. I got like Valorant. I got Marvel Spider-Man. I don't know. Fucking. I do something else than play or even on Roblox. Like I would just rather play like I don't know Phantom Forces, whatever. I haven't played Roblox in years, so I don't know what games there are. But I'm sure there's something. I'm sure you get what I mean, and I think that's the main issue that I have. But at the same time, and I don't want people to take this the wrong way. If you enjoy doing that, more power to you. If you enjoy doing that, do it. Have fun. I want you to keep doing that. I'm not going to stop anyone, and I'm not going to tell anyone that they have to. And people misconstrue my words when I tweeted out once something about gimmicks, and someone said, "I don't have the time to sit down and spend an hour coming up with it." Like, my God, you don't have to. It's not that hard to just find a different hair color. You know what I mean? So like that's my main issue. But more power to the people who want to just do that. I'm glad you enjoy that.
Next question. It's really irritating to see the prospect of Raw Wrestling's cheaters to see every day. Like, they have a purpose to do it for no reason whatsoever. Give me your thoughts on cheating.
Well, obviously it's bad. I think that there has been a growth of the amount of cheaters in the community, and there's also been it's almost undetectable now. And unfortunately that's just the truth. And I think that goes with the whole shift in the dynamic of, again, the priorities of what the community is. People care more about wanting to win these fake fights. Sorry, these real fights based off fake fights, which I don't think it's that deep, personally. So I don't know why people. I feel like there's so much. If you're bad at Raw Wrestling, right? I don't think I'm that good. So, what I do? I just don't Raw Wrestle. I just do other stuff. But for some reason, and these, and again, we're talking about like these 12, 11-year-olds. I just think it's egregious. Just think it's so weird that people would go out of their way and buy these cheats, spend real money on these cheats for a Roblox wrestling match. I don't understand it personally. And I think when it comes to the topic of like how do you combat that and how much it's risen, there's always been cheating. There's always been amazing developers who go out of their way to create these new systems to help people and try to get rid of that problem. Unfortunately, some of us work better than some anti-cheats have worked better than others, and people just bypass them. And it's just, again, it's that cycle. It's a cycle that happens over and over again, and it's unfortunate, but I wouldn't say it kills me. Like if you cheat, like I kind of pity them because you probably don't have like a lot. Like you probably don't have. You just like I don't know. I think people are thinking too deep about the community if you're cheating. But that's just me. That's just me.
Ninth question. So looking back at those days you had experience in this hobby, um, what is the most considered memorable moment of pro wrestling you had?
Yeah, I would say just yesterday the fact that I was able to amass over 110 plus people to a live stream, and have that amount of people support what I do. And it's not a real wrestling thing, but I just attribute it to the community because that's where the people came from. The fact that I'm able to be a part of a community and be well known here, that's pretty cool. That's really memorable to me. Last night, and I don't know when this is gonna come up, but January 7th, Roblania Spider-Man came out. It was a tremendous release, and that on top of Resurrection, we like 17 weeks straight hitting 50, but maxing out our shows, just being able to create again. I like I love creating things, and being able to create an experience not just for myself, but I've seen other people. Just the fact that people will come back after like 5 years or so and say, "Oh my God, these were some of the most memorable moments of my childhood, and I had so much fun." That to me is kind of crazy, surreal. I mean, like, cause like we're the same age, so the fact people were having more fun than me when I was doing something, and they cherish that to me is what makes Raw Wrestling memorable, and that's the whole end game, the community, right? It's just to have fun.
Yup. And last but not least, we have the final question to wrap this up. Main aim for the future of Raw Wrestling.
I think the future is to keep and again, it's that narrative of pushing the standard and pushing the absolute maximum that we can go to create a memorable experience, not just for ourselves, but for other people. This community is full of not only amazing developers, but also amazing pro wrestlers. I think the future of pro wrestling is going to be there's going to be a lot of challenges because of the way that things are shifting, and I don't think it's necessarily as memorable. And I really and like people really shit on people for being like, oh, I who cares about like X, Y, and Z? But these are people saying it like out of love because this is what made our childhood so like no, it's not everyone gets to experience the thrill of like I don't know being an RC. I wasn't an RCW, but like I know people who were, and it was just fucking surreal for them. Like as a kid, like the feeling of being in a RWA Fed like 5 years ago, it was insane. Like you would feel, and again, like it's just a Roblox game, but like, yet you would feel that it's important. That you would feel like this is an accomplishment. And that's the beauty of video games. That's the beauty of what we do as a community. The fact that you're able to just make such a memorable moment and make people feel like what they're doing isn't just swinging and clean. It's swinging and clean in I don't know what some Fed called JXE. I don't know, some random shit like that, and they feel like that Fed is the greatest Fed in the world. And as a kid or as an adult, they are able to have fun, and they're able to feel like what they're doing. And this is I stress the importance is that people should feel like what they're doing actually has a point. Winning a championship should feel like you won something. You feel like something the same way, the same exact way. Like when my friend Apoc plays Valorant, like he ranks up. He'll rank up to a new rank in like a video game. For people who play like ranked video games, this is what I'm saying. that feeling of ranking up after working so hard to get there, we should get that same thrill in pro wrestling. And that's a lost thing. People don't know the feeling of that because in the past, people would get excited just by getting accepted into an RWA group, an RWA Fed group. That was a while ago, and we don't have that same thing anymore. Now you get accepted, now nobody cares, and it may just be because the quality of said thing isn't to their liking, or this is my thing. I think it's just because it's a lost art. But in terms of the future of wrestling, I have, it's a cycle. There are so many people that are bitter when they leave the community, and they're like, it's dying. And I find that so ironic because it's still alive. It's never died. It's what I think irks people is that it'll continue without you, and because again, this community is such a big part of a lot of people's childhoods. People spend years on this site, in this community. People spend years in this community, which is so overlooked. Which is why I care. This is why I don't say these things because I just randomly want people to do better. And the World Wrestling community is great. No, it's the real reason that I say these things and express the importance of being able to create these memorable moments in the community is because people spend years in this community. Whether you like it or not, people spend years in this community. And I want those years to be memorable for other people, the same way that it was for me. And so I think the future, with or without me, it's like WWE. Okay, we're all spokes on a wheel. It's gonna keep going. Maybe it'll be amazing. Maybe it'll be better than it was last year, next year. Maybe it'll be worse. But that's really not up to me. That's up to the people listening to this video. Because, they're the ones that are going to make the future.
Alright, that was it, folks. Ace, if you have anything to say towards to the outro, can you do it somehow?
Yeah, man. If I can do a little self-promotion, the Roblania Network, we just, if you guys could stream Roblania Spider-Man, it is a feature-length movie, so if you guys, it's shorter than a wrestling show, so if you guys could give that a watch, and then a like goes a long way. I run the Roblania Network YouTube channel, and if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at Dr. A's and at Roblania Network. Thank you guys for supporting the content creators in the community, and yeah, stay awesome.
And I will see you guys in the next episode of the SVR Podcast. Make sure to show them some love in their channel. Link will be down in the description below. Anyways, see you later and bye.